share our Minnesota sand mining experience. And how about you, sir?
Okay, my name is Jack Knight, and I'm from Wisconsin County, Iowa. And we're just on the very beginning of trying to keep the mining and the transport out of our county. We're at the very beginning of that.
No mining, just transport?
Both
mining also?
are proposed.
Okay. Very good.
I'm Marie Anderson. I'm with the Jackson County Citizen Voices Group. I'm in northern Jackson County, and we're holding our base so far.
Very good.
My name is Maraya Barragan. I belong to the organization Citizens for Safe Water around Bayer, and we are fighting about the drinking water in the former military place that they were constructing a lot of military weapons and so forth. So I am coming from Milwaukee, Waunakee, excuse me, Waunakee, yes.
Very good. Thank you for being here. Yes, sir.
My name is Wally Lee. I live right here in Jackson County, probably 5 miles away. I'm on the board of Wisconsin League of Conservation Boards Institute. There's 2 boards to that Conservation Boards Institute. One is a 501c3 board. John Locker is also a 501c4 board.
Very good. Thank you for being here. Yes, sir.
I'm from Goodhue County in Iowa, northeast Iowa. And we are probably this week, looks like we probably are going to be successful and have the county supervisors put in an 18-month, possibly a 24-month moratorium. So lots of work's been done and before the mining starts. So
very good.
Time to get a heads up on this one.
Very good. And which county?
Winneshiek.
Winneshiek?
Where Decorah, Iowa is located.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Luther College.
Yes. Very good. Welcome. Yes, sir.
People
We're just introducing ourselves because we're a pretty small group.
Okay. I'm John Miller. I'm a county supervisor from Sauk County, and I'm also, I serve on some commissions, and that one of the commissions that I serve on is the WRRTC, which is the Wisconsin Railroad Commission. So that's one of the main reasons I'm here, is just to learn about frac sand and that sort of thing.
Well, welcome. And how about our movie man here? Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Richard Wolf. I'm the Evansville Observer, and this lecture today will be, if you Google grassroots sand, you'll see this lecture. Should be on YouTube by tomorrow.
Very good.
In Wisconsin.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. And one other thing about myself, I'm a planning commissioner in Florence Township, and I'm also the chairman of the Save the Bluff Citizens Group from Minnesota, from southeastern Minnesota. We started this back in February of 2011, and I'll show you how this all got started. We are continuing to work on the frac sand issues, but I think we've made some progress, and I'm excited to share that with you today. And these are some of the things that I'm going to cover in this lecture. Back in January of 2011, in a little tiny newspaper article in the local paper, announced the fact that Windsor Permian Mining Company, which is a subdivision of Wexford Capital, a bunch of speculators, bought 155 acres of land in Hay Creek, which is right by Red Wing, to mine. Their intent was to mine, and 40 acres down by us in Florence Township, which was next to a rail line, and their intent there was to put in a processing or a transload facility. One thing that I think is amazing is the fact that in Minnesota, 160 acres triggers a full environmental impact statement. They bought 155. They know what they're doing. This is a map of the Hay Creek site where the mining operation is. You can see it's basically fairly close, within a couple of miles, and sometimes closer, to a lot of fairly sensitive areas. School, assisted living with senior home, and tech college. And not showing on here is a huge park, Hay Creek Park, which is biking, hiking, horseback riding, and camping. This is the property in Florence Township, and you can see it was right across from Hanson's Harbor on the river. And the Windsor Permian land is shaded in orange there, and there's a railhead going to the back of it. But again, a tiny little ad in the newspaper, and it was only by happenstance that somebody caught it. The things that we did was a lot of education. We learned a lot from our poster children in Wisconsin. We learned what happened here. We learned about a lot of unzoned towns and so on. We also came to one of your lovely SAN conferences here that was put on, I think it was in Eau Claire, and spent the whole day learning about what toolkits can be used in various townships and cities to guard themselves on frac sand. I also toured mines, which was a real eye-opener. I toured, there was a sand conference actually for geologists and the lovers of sand mining in Minneapolis or Brooklyn Center. And one part of that conference was mining tours. So I got a chance to see a whole bunch of Wisconsin mines in person. And one of them that really sticks in my mind is the Blair mine, because they actually staged an explosion, a blast for us. And we were probably 2 football fields away from where the blast took place. And of course, I'm standing with a bunch of rock people that love mining and love everything, and I'm sort of undercover, if you will. And you can feel the ground shake under your feet, and the plume of sand and orange smoke shot up 1,000 feet in the air. And I'm thinking, how? We had an ordinance that time with a setback of 500 feet from mining. How could that ever be far enough away? Also, the aerial photography that you see out here was taken by my husband. He's a pilot, and he flew some photographers, Jim Tittle, who made our movie Price of Sand, around and got those pictures. And of course, we were anxious to share them with Wisconsin, because I think it was probably the first time that you had those kind of shots here. We also did a plethora of online research. We dug and dug and dug to find out as much as we could find out about silica frac sand and all of its issues. And then, of course, we had a mining study committee that was formed in Goodhue County, in our county, and we shared that information. We tried to educate them. This is what we're learning. Look at all this rich information. So we did some educating. We also had tons of meetings and communication. We formed the Save the Bluff Citizens group. It started with about 5, 6 people that were involved close by, myself being one of them, of the affected areas. And it grew. And we have a distribution list of about 400 people right now that we can contact with just an email. We also held public meetings, such as I'm doing here, is educating the public about what are the issues around frac sand, why should you be scared or nervous. We also attended and testified at county board meetings, at the mine study meetings. I went to every meeting in the last 2 years, and environmental quality board meetings. And I don't know, do you have something like that in Wisconsin, environmental quality board? That is made up of a group of commissioners that represent our state agencies. And we gave testimony there too. We also gave a lot of presentations to churches. Land Stewardship is another big group that we worked with. Trout Unlimited, huge group, probably over here as well. And sportsmen's and civic groups. Wherever we had a chance to plug in, we did. And a lot of times we were asked, we weren't asking them. Went on local radio shows. Had interviews on local radio shows just to make people more aware of what the issues are. Lots of letters to the editor in various newspapers. Minneapolis Tribune and St. Paul Pioneer Press are not real willing to publish a lot, but we did manage to get a couple in those as well as our local papers. And then we did a lot of state capitol work this year. We were there giving testimony at many hearings because one of our senators in our district introduced a bill that we tried to get a moratorium in our state for sand mining, as well as a generic environmental impact statement that would give a complete cumulative view of what sand mining could do, especially in the southeastern part of our state. We didn't succeed with that, but we did just pass legislation last week that allows, it requires a 1-mile setback from trout streams, And the DNR can permit within that 1 mile, but they have to go through the DNR. That's totally new and that's law now. We also were able to extend moratoriums even if we've already had them. We can extend them up to 2 more years if we need to. That's law. Counties can. Well, counties or townships. And also, we got a state environmental agency committee that is going to write model ordinances that can be used by counties and townships if they want to. So I think we got a lot, but we didn't get exactly what we asked for, but it took a lot of work and a lot of politics going on and a lot of deal making to even get that language into the bill. But it worked.
Can you repeat that last success you had?
On the bill?
Right.
We have a state agency-based committee that will be writing model ordinances that can be used by townships and counties. And the nice part about that is in the law it says if the counties don't want to use any of the recommendations for the ordinance, they have to clearly state why they won't. I think that's a good thing.
So the sample ordinances or the template
Model ordinances.
Model is the legal term. That's neither a ceiling or a floor?
It is, I think, around setbacks. They will be depending on state quality, or excuse me, state standards for air and water, which are in development right now. I think the state of Minnesota is coming out with an air quality standard in June.
So is the intention, what is the intention or the effect? Is the intention to make sure local forms of government can't have stricter regulations?
No,
Is this
local
going to
can,
undermine?
no, local
Okay.
can be stricter,
Oh, okay.
which is the law.
Okay, good.
Locals can be stricter than the county or the state. They can't be less than.
Mhm.
Okay, but these model ordinances kind of attack all areas that the county should be looking at, and if they aren't, then they need to explain why they're not looking at the setbacks or why they're not looking at.
So it's a floor.
Yes, basically it is. And they can be more restrictive.
We're concerned about going to our state because the state might decide that the county shouldn't do anything and under, you know, and with the stroke of a pen, take
Sure.
away all our right to do it.
We were afraid of that,
You're
too.
from Winnebago County. I don't think we should go to the state.
We were
I think
afraid
we're
of that.
going to fire.
Last year in our legislation, they had a law that would have possibly undermined the power of the local governments. And I think it passed, it didn't pass, but it only missed by 1 vote.
Well, you don't
So
know
we
that.
still have local authority.
That's
It could
true.
come back. It could come back.
By the way, this model that you're referring to, do you have a copy of that?
They don't have it written yet. This law is so new, it was just enacted in May, just signed by the governor a week ago. So it's, you know, to be determined as far as any of the model ordinances go.
Yeah.
But it will happen.
Well, what kind of taxing authority on the shipment or sale of frac sand does Minnesota have?
Minnesota did not go for the taxes, and the sand lobby was there strong, saying we don't want taxes.
So the counties
But the
can't
counties,
levy tax?
yeah, the counties can. Like Goodhue
counties can
County
levy
can do
tax?
21.5 cents per ton.
The counties can.
Right.
But
They
there's
are
a
able
cap.
to do that. Say again?
There's a cap.
There's a cap, 21.5 cents. But that's Goodhue County, and every county may be different. In our county, we can collect. And then, of course, getting back to our communications, emails, phone calls, interviews. We flew over and met with Ron Koshishek, who's a very active person in sand mining in Howard Township. And we learned a lot from him as well. He was one of the presenters from the sand conference that was held.
If a sand miner in Minnesota shipped their clean sand, and shipped it out of Iowa or Wisconsin, would they avoid the Minnesota tax?
Yeah, because there's no interstate commerce tax.
So they would dodge the Minnesota tax
Of course.
if they were shipping out,
Of
because
course.
it's a tax on
Yep.
clean shipped out.
Right. And the
That's
sand
really-
lobby, as I say, won that battle because the governor said in Minnesota, Governor Dayton said, either we put these standards in the bill that I just mentioned, or I'll tax you. And the sand lobby backed down and said, oh, we don't want taxes.
Well, they'll just try to ship it to Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
Do you expect that what you've done here is going to be an effective deterrent to the sand mining companies?
It'll slow them down. I think it'll slow them down, and especially the fact that many of the counties have been busy as long as Goodhue County has in writing ordinances and trying to control things. We had an advantage. We learned from Wisconsin that here's what you got to get in place before anything comes in, because there are only a few frac sand mines in Minnesota now, but the permits will start coming in, I'm sure, as soon as county moratoriums are lifted. Yes?
For the model ordinances that are going to be created, is that going to be created by a committee, or is that going to be created by the Minnesota DNR?
No, it's a committee, and it is made up of state agency representatives and the Environmental Quality Board, which is a commission from Governor Dayton, will be overseeing all of that.
So do you suspect that Minnesota will just make things just a little bit harder for the sand companies in Minnesota, and then just put more and more pressure on Wisconsin? Is that going to be the effect of this? Or is Minnesota going to kick the door open and steal as much sand business from Wisconsin?
I think they're going to kick the door open. I don't think that they feel as though there's going to be a ban. I mean, we tried discussing ban, and it was just out of the question. I think we're going to see some business. I think it will be in more restrictive areas, more designated areas than what you're seeing in Wisconsin. And but it's coming. We know it's coming. It's not going to stay away.
Or if that Trump rule can hold up.
You mentioned
It'll
that
help.
you discovered that a complete state ban is completely out of the question.
Exactly.
And would you just speak to that? Why did you conclude that?
Well, I think a lot of sand lobbyists were at the state capitol. You know, we were fortunate in Florence Township to actually hire a lobbyist. We had some generous donors, and we hired a lobbyist to go do battle for us at the state, as well as ourselves attending. The sand lobbyists were probably 8-1 against ours, and they certainly had the ear of many of the committee heads, you know, the senators and state representatives, and could bend their ear quite well. I think that the last thing any of the legislators would have done was banned it, because they really see that this is some sort of an opportunity. I don't know exactly what, because we don't have a very high unemployment rating, or ratio, but in any event, I think that they just said they would not consider a ban. Yes?
I represent Clayton and Alpine counties in the state of Iowa, and listening to that, I think as far as the local groups go in our state, I think they would have more power currently to come to the state and lobby on their behalf and try and, one of the things that I'm looking at is to propose a moratorium, along with some other things that I'm kicking around in my head. But the rumor had it.
A state moratorium?
A state moratorium, yes. The only thing I'm worried about on that is I don't want to piggyback or double up if Winnesheep does pass a moratorium. I want it to be in effect, to have a further lasting effect than what the county moratoriums are, so it would give them more time as well, you know. But one thing I'm thinking is rumor had it that Patterson Sand in Clayton was supposed to have a lobbyist this year. Being the representative, they never introduced themselves to myself, so I don't think that, you know, followed up and followed through. So I think the citizens groups would have more power
With the lobbyist?
in this coming session,
Yeah.
being that we don't have sand lobbyists currently.
Okay, well then, it would be really smart of you to find a lobbyist, raise the funds, and get a lobbyist. One of the other reasons that I think there was a ban was never considered is because we've got the northern part of the state mining in Hibbing. And some of the reps and senators are from that area and that district, and they said, we don't want anything to affect our mining. They see it as all the same. It's not, but that's how they see it. But lobbyists are good things, if they're on your side. Yes?
In Wisconsin, perhaps a year and a half ago, there was a kind of consortium of these sand mining companies that got together to lobby. And recently, the figures came out, the amount of money that they have given to state senators in the Assemblyman, most of it.
And Scott Walker.
Yeah, most of it did go to the government, but tremendous amount.
Yeah, huge dollars. They have got money everywhere. That's the thing that is a fight between citizens groups and the sand lobby is there's a lot of dollars involved. Yes.
You know, the Bakken formation out of North Dakota, I happen to live in Williston for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Quite a number of years ago, but I still know a lot of people out there. And so my impression from what they say and from what I read about the Bakken formation, is enormous potential out there. When you think about that, they're planning to go headlong ahead. I mean, they're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of wells.
30,000. I think there's 6,000 or 7,000 today. Their goal is 30,000.
Yeah. So with that kind of a demand for the frac sand, I mean, it really becomes an incredible problem for those who are opposed to frac sand.
It is, but there are alternatives. There's ceramics. There's ceramic proppants, and they're getting more plausible because if they can produce them on the well site, they don't have to ship the sand, which is 70% of the cost of sand. So they're looking at it, believe me, and I hope they get there. Fundraising, oh yes?
I'm sorry, could you explain that last?
The ceramic proppants?
Yeah.
They're actually producing them out of a ceramic clay, and it has become less expensive to produce them, as I've been reading, and more attractive to perhaps the well sites in these oil fields, shale fields, because they don't have to ship any sand. And 70% of the cost of sand is the transportation. That's how expensive it is. And I learned just recently, because there's a lawsuit that I've been following locally in Goodhue District Court, First District Court, that the price of sand profit, according to Windsor Permian, because they're in this lawsuit, is net profit now. This is all costs removed, is $46.50 a ton. That's pure profit.
Excuse me, and the final resort is what? Did they withdraw the exploitation of sand in Minnesota? They don't do it anymore?
Exploration?
Yes.
Oh no, they know where it is. The geologists know where all of it is, and of course it's in our driftless area, just like it is in yours. And it's nowhere else in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Fundraising, these are some of the things that we did. Our group, we have kind of a core group of people. There's probably 15 or 20 of us that did this kind of stuff and got everybody involved, to come and join us. And, we did fairly well in terms of donations, but we had a few very generous ones that afforded us our lobbyists because they believed how important it was. And, tens of thousands of dollars. I think our lobbyists cost us $30,000. Yeah.
Where are you at with approaching and getting success with real estate developers, especially vacation home developers? Are they willing to donate, or are they just looking for properties to sell so they can resell them to buy?
Well, actually, some of our people that are in our Save the Bluffs group are realtors, and have made donations and have done some significant work to help us, because they're all interested too. They
we're puzzled why ours aren't more on.
Okay.
And we think it's because they're just buying up sand farms to sell to the mining company later, and they'll just make it a different way. But
and unfortunately, Joanna Rupert couldn't be here to co-present, but we had been down in Wabasha with them, and there are a lot of very concerned people and a very group of very influential people down there that donated.
You've had good luck with it. I hope we do too someday. I
do too. And we have a website. You just Google Save the Bluffs, and that's where we could get donations online as well. The requested government action, as I mentioned, we as a citizens group pressured Goodhue County into not only a one-year moratorium, but an extension of it, because we said, your mining study didn't do its job. Your mining study committee did not do its job, so we got an extension. Now, because of our state law, we could actually ask them to extend it again, and we're going to try. We lobbied the Environmental Quality Board in St. Paul, told them our story. They really got involved. They got on board. They got more educated. And again, those are state agency-based people. You know, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Minnesota Department of Health, MnDOT, Transportation, etc., DNR. We hired the lobbyist, as I mentioned, and we already talked about the setbacks. And then what we did at a township level, and this is basically why I joined the Planning Commission, is we worked on a zoning ordinance, and at the end of March this year, we prohibited silica sand in our little township. We have 1,500 people. And we went through all the proper procedures. It was all done, you know, by an attorney. But what we did is, because we have no industrial zone in our township, we said, frac sand is industrial. And they use chemicals in processing. Their whole thing is different. We don't allow industrial businesses in our township.
So that was easy to do because you didn't have any industrial zoning.
Right.
Or it made it possible.
Right. And
how do you?
we could get sued, I'm sure. But
what do the sand and gravel quarry people
we
say
protected we have gravel
with
pits.
those ordinances?
We have 6 gravel pits in our township. And we protected them by separating them and saying,
in which way?
well, we're saying silica frac sand is industrial business, okay?
Oh.
Aggregate is local, mom and pop, we need the gravel. So we protected them.
That's how you differentiated.
We
And they were happy
differentiated.
with that?
Who was happy?
Sand and gravel people?
They were fine with it. As long as they could continue to do business, they were fine with it. But so far, we're the only ones that I know of with a zoning ordinance that literally prohibits. The rest of them, like Hay Creek, made it so restrictive that it'll be really tough for them. Fillmore County banned the use of flocculants, the polyacrylamides. And they said, you can't wash your sand here, you can't store any wash sand here. Well, guess what? It's so expensive to ship it out, unprocessed, and nobody wants unprocessed sand. They all want it clean. So they pretty much did a job of prohibition as well. Yes?
Now, the gravel pits and so forth,
Yes.
quarries, how are they zoned? Are they zoned more agricultural?
Ag.
Ag.
It's all Ag 1.
What county prohibited flocculants?
Fillmore County. Yep. David Williams is their attorney and on their town board, and we actually hired him to be our attorney to write our ordinance. He's great. He's great.
And that's exactly why Riley Construction wants to clean and transport sand out of Allen County.
Aha.
Squeezed it.
Put it, yep, okay.
He wasn't interested in that site. They'd owned that site for a decade or more. They were never interested in development until the Winona, until the Fillmore ordinance
Okay.
and the active protest in Winona, and he was right down to our county courthouse.
That's unfortunate.
Open that site.
It's sort of like we are pushing